The guards knocked on the door of the bridal chamber. No answer. They knocked again. Still nothing. They forced the door open. Inside, they found their king, the most feared man alive, the man who had made two Roman empires tremble, the man who had extracted thousands of pounds of gold from the greatest civilizations of the ancient world, dead. Face up on the floor, drenched in blood, no wound, no enemy, no battle. In the corner, his new bride, a young woman named Ildiko, sat trembling, unable to speak. Attila the Hun, king of the Huns, ruler of the most feared empire in 5th century Europe, had died of a nosebleed. This is not the story you were taught. By the middle of the 5th century, the Roman Empire was old and exhausted. The western half, Rome, Italy, Gaul, Britain, was fraying at its edges. Taxes couldn't be collected. Armies couldn't be paid. The emperors changed so fast it was hard to keep count. The eastern half, centered on Constantinople, was richer, better organized, but it too had enemies pressing in from every direction. And then, from the east, came the Huns. They had appeared on the edges of the Roman world in the late 4th century, arriving out of the Eurasian steppe like something Rome had no category for. Not a kingdom, not a civilization in any sense Rome recognized. A confederation of nomadic warrior tribes, bound together by the strength of whoever led them, held together by fear and gold and the promise of plunder. The Romans had fought Persians, Parthians, Visigoths, Vandals. They had protocols for all of them, diplomatic channels, established precedents, ways to negotiate. The Huns were different, and the man who would lead them, the man who would extract more gold from Rome than any enemy in its history, had reportedly spent part of his youth at the Roman court. He knew exactly how Rome worked. His name was Attila. Attila was not born a king. Some accounts say he was sent as a young man to live at the Roman court. A diplomatic hostage, exchanged like a promise between powers. You give us yours, we give you ours. If true, it was meant to civilize him. It did something else entirely. Attila learned Latin, he learned Gothic, he learned how Roman diplomacy functioned. The protocols, the pressure points, the places where the system bent. He watched how an empire managed its enemies. He took notes. When he returned to his people, he carried that knowledge with him. And when his uncle Rugila died in 434, and the leadership of the Huns passed to Attila and his elder brother Bleda, he knew exactly what to do with it. Their first act as co-rulers was to negotiate a treaty with the Eastern Roman Empire. The terms: Rome would double the annual tribute it paid the Huns, 700 pounds of gold per year, in exchange for peace. Rome agreed. Attila had learned something Rome would spend the next 20 years trying to unlearn. When you pay someone not to hurt you, you have just told them exactly how much you are worth to hurt. The joint rule with Bleda lasted 10 years. Then, in 445 CE, Bleda died. The ancient sources are careful about this. The most reliable account, from the Byzantine diplomat Priscus, who would later meet Attila personally, states simply that Bleda died as a result of the plots of his brother Attila. A hunting trip. Some accounts suggest an ambush. The details were never recorded, only the result. Attila was now alone at the top. No co-ruler, no constraint, no one to answer to. Within 2 years, the world would understand what that meant. When the Eastern Romans broke the terms of the Treaty of Margus, they were caught looting Hunnic tombs near the border. Attila had his pretext. He launched a massive campaign against the Eastern Roman frontier. City after city fell. Singidunum, modern Belgrade, was sacked. Assus, the birthplace of Constantine the Great, was razed so completely that when Roman diplomats passed through a decade later, they reported the ground still white with bones. The Eastern Roman Emperor Theodosius II sued for peace. Attila named his terms. 6,000 pounds of gold, in arrears, immediately, to compensate for the violation of the previous treaty, and the annual tribute going forward would be tripled. 2,100 pounds of gold every year Theodosius paid. Stop and consider that number for a moment. 2,100 pounds of gold per year from the Eastern Roman Empire alone, extracted not by conquest, not by occupation, but by the credible threat of doing exactly what he had just demonstrated he was capable of doing. Attila never wanted to administer Roman territory. He had no interest in becoming Roman. He wanted their gold, and he had found a system for getting it that required almost nothing from him, just periodic demonstrations of what happened when they refused. In 449 CE, a Byzantine diplomat named Priscus was sent to Attila's court as part of an official embassy. He recorded everything he saw. His account is the only eyewitness description of Attila we have. He described a man of short stature, broad-chested, large head, flat nose, small, sharp eyes, a thin beard going gray, dark skin, nothing remarkable by Roman standards in dress or bearing. At the feast, every guest ate and drank from gold and silver, plates, cups, everything. Attila ate from wooden dishes. He drank from a wooden cup. It was a performance, calculated and deliberate. He was telling them, "I don't want what you have. I don't need it. You are not impressing me." Every man at that table was there because his emperor was afraid of this quiet man drinking from wood. That was the point. In 450 CE, a woman changed the history of Europe with a letter. Her name was Honoria. She was the sister of Valentinian III, the Western Roman emperor, and she was furious. Valentinian had arranged her marriage to a senator, a safe, respectable, utterly boring senator, chosen precisely because he posed no political threat. Honoria's role, as Valentinian saw it, was to produce no complications. So she wrote to Attila. She sent her personal signet ring with the letter. What she intended, historians still argue about this. She may have been asking for his help as a political ally. She may have been asking him to intervene against the arranged marriage. She may not have fully understood what she was doing. Attila understood exactly what she was doing. He declared that the ring was a marriage proposal, that Honoria had offered herself to him as a bride, and that, as her intended husband, he was entitled to half the Western Roman Empire as her dowry. Valentinian refused. Attila invaded Gaul. Ancient accounts describe a force beyond counting. Modern historians estimate tens of thousands of warriors, perhaps far more. Whatever the true number, it was enough. They crossed the Rhine. They burned Metz. They reached Orléans and laid siege to it. The whole of Gaul seemed to be falling. And then something unexpected happened. The Roman general Aetius did what no one thought possible. He assembled a coalition, Romans and Visigoths, who had spent decades as enemies, and met Attila on the open plain. The Battle of the Catalonian Plains was catastrophic on both sides. Tens of thousands died. The Visigoth king Theodoric fell in the fighting. By nightfall, Attila's army had suffered losses it could not absorb. He withdrew into his wagon fort. It was the first time in his career he had failed. What happened next matters just as much. Aetius, the Roman general who had just beaten Attila, called off the pursuit. With Attila pinned in his wagon fort, battered and exposed, Aetius chose not to press the attack. He had the chance, and he let him go. Because, historians believe, Aetius needed Attila alive. Without the threat of the Huns, the Visigoths, his allies of one afternoon, might turn on Rome. The balance of power that kept Aetius indispensable would collapse. He had beaten the greatest military threat of his age, and then deliberately preserved it. Because a threat you control is more useful than a peace you can't manage. Attila walked back across the Rhine. He would be back. The following year, Attila turned south. He invaded Italy. The city of Aquileia, one of the most important in northern Italy, a major trading hub at the head of the Adriatic, was besieged and destroyed. Destroyed so completely, so deliberately, and so thoroughly that it was never rebuilt. The people who fled took to the islands of the lagoon. Those islands and those refugees would eventually become Venice. Attila advanced south through Italy, city by city. The Western Emperor Valentinian III had already fled to Ravenna. Rome itself lay open. There was no army left to stop him. And then Pope Leo I walked out to meet him. The Pope went personally. He met Attila near Mantua, somewhere along the river Mincio. They spoke. We don't know what was said. No verbatim account exists. Attila withdrew from Italy. The church called it a miracle. God himself, they said, had stayed the hand of the scourge. Historians have spent 600 years arguing about what actually happened. His army had been decimated by plague during the Italian campaign. The Eastern Romans had launched a counterattack across the Danube while he was in the south, threatening his homeland. His own men reportedly warned him that Alaric, the Visigoth who had sacked Rome in 410, had died within a year of that victory, and the city was considered cursed. And the Pope had very likely brought gold. Attila left. He let everyone explain it however they needed to. It had cost him nothing to be mysterious. It never had. In the spring of 453 CE, Attila took a new wife. Her name was Ildico. She was young, Germanic, and almost nothing else is known about her. A political marriage in all likelihood. A diplomatic arrangement in the language Attila had always spoken best. The feast was enormous, even by Hunnic standards. Attila drank. He celebrated. By all accounts, the night was everything a wedding night for a king of his power should be. In the morning, his guards found him dead. No wound, no mark of violence. His face was covered in blood, his own blood, from a catastrophic nosebleed that, in his stupor, he had choked on in the night. The man who had made 2 Roman empires flinch had been killed by his own body. The news spread through the Hunnic camp within hours. And then, something remarkable happened. Nothing. Attila's sons, he had many, immediately began fighting each other over the succession. The subject peoples who had been held in place purely by the terror of his name, Gepids, Ostrogoths, Syri, revolted. Within a year, the Battle of Nidau saw Attila's sons defeated by the very peoples they had ruled. The Hunnic Confederation simply dissolved. The empire that had terrified the world for 2 decades was gone within 2 years of the man who had built it. Because Attila hadn't built an empire at all. He had built a reputation. And a reputation dies with the man who carries it. Here is what the history books get wrong about Attila the Hun. They frame him as a destroyer, a barbarian at the gates, the man who almost ended Western civilization through brute force and savage violence. That's not what he was. Attila was the greatest political extortionist in ancient history. He understood something that Rome, with all its centuries of diplomatic sophistication, never fully grasped: that the threat of destruction is more valuable than destruction itself. If you destroy a city, the gold is gone. If you leave it standing and make it afraid, the gold keeps coming. He made the Eastern Roman Empire, the richest state in the Western world, pay him 2,100 pounds of gold per year. Not through occupation, not through governance, through fear, maintained at the precise temperature where it was cheaper to pay than to fight. And they paid, year after year, while their diplomats drank from silver cups at his table and he drank from wood. The name Scourge of God, the phrase most people know him by, was not his. He didn't coin it. He didn't demand it. The Romans gave him that name. It was their theological explanation for why God was punishing them, why their cities were burning, why their treasury was empty. It was easier to say God was angry than to admit they were paying a man from the steppe not to hurt them. Attila understood the value of the myth, so he let them have it. A name like Scourge of God costs nothing to accept, and it makes every Roman who hears it a little more afraid. And fear, in Attila's system, was money. He died of a nosebleed, on his wedding night, drunk. The most powerful man in the 5th century world was killed by his own blood, in his own bed, with no enemy in sight. According to later accounts, they buried him in a river. They diverted the water, dug the grave in the dry bed, sealed him in a triple coffin, iron, then silver, then gold, and returned the river to its course above him. Then they killed the men who dug the grave. No one would ever find where he lay. And within 2 years, it was as if the Huns had never existed. No institutions, no bureaucracy, no laws, no cities, no monuments, nothing left behind except a name, and the debts other people had paid to stay afraid of it. Rome had paid Attila for 20 years. When he died, they stopped almost immediately. 23 years later, the Western Roman Empire collapsed anyway. Not to the Huns. The Huns were already gone. The man they had feared enough to pay mountains of gold had actually given them something. Not peace, but time. What they did with it, that's a different story. If you want to understand what happens to civilizations that refuse to face what's coming until someone makes them pay for it, subscribe. There's another story waiting. And if you have a question, who do you think really made Rome fall? Leave it below.